everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Author Collaborative. As always, I'll be talking to an author's book. I'll be talking to an author whose book I have recently read and enjoyed. And my guest for today is Gaurav Rao, also known as Cross. That's his pen name, and that's the name under which he has written his book, Angry Junglee Bosses. And we'll be talking about that book in detail. Do stay tuned. It's going to be a really interesting conversation, and he has written a corporate fiction which is not only satirical and very humorous, but it's a different take on the corporate world. It's a very unique and fresh take on the corporate world. So do stay connected. Let me just see if I can add him here. I don't see him here yet. Hi Siddhant. Hi Sona. Hi Mayur. Thank you for joining. I am doing this live today with Gaurav Rao, and he is also popularly known as Cross. That's his pen name via which he has written his debut novel. It's a corporate fiction titled Angry Junglee Bosses. We are going to talk about the book and a lot more. Do stay connected. Yes, hi friends. It's going to be a really fun conversation. Do stay tuned. I am waiting for my guest to join me here so we can start the episode. I have invited him already, but he's not here yet. Okay, he's here. Hi Gaurav, I have sent you the invitation. See if you were able to accept it. If you have not received it, I will send it once more. Hi Tanvi, thank you for joining. Hello, floating on pages. Okay, seems like he didn't get my invitation. I'm going to send a fresh one. No, not yet. Were you able to accept my invitation, Gaurav? You cannot hear me. Oh. Okay. Yes, we are here sharing the screen. You'll have to turn on your front camera.
Yeah, looks like it. Just a second. How is that too? Acha, okay.
There must
You
be a
see
flip
me.
button.
You
Yes.
see me. You see me.
Hello.
Hi,
Yes. Hi.
Banali.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Same here. Very excited to talk to you. And we already have
Likewise.
your fans here in the live, and Siddhant has already said hi, friends. So we know
Hi, hey,
somebody.
Siddharth friend.
We are going to talk a lot more about this word and many more things. But before we do that, please introduce yourself to the audience in brief.
All right. Welcome, friends. Thank you for coming to my first ever Instagram live. And I am Gaurav. My pen name is Cross. I'm the author of Angry Jungly Bosses, the book that you guys seem to be liking, and I am loving that fact. A lot of hard work was put into this book, and I am glad that it is receiving the response and the love that it is getting. And I'm here in front of you in my filthy yellow ugly shirt.
Oh, I see. We are very topical today. Nice.
Yes, yes. You've got to dress for the part, right?
Yes, definitely. Yes. And we have learned that from you, from your book, actually, that you have to be true to your work. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you will get bosses who are like always angry, jungly. So let's talk about my experience of reading this book first.
Sure.
I read this. I had been hearing a lot about this book even before I started reading it because corporate fiction is a very niche genre. We have very few authors in India who have written corporate fiction, and usme bhi the way you have written it, like putting the corporate fiction world into an animal world. I have never heard of such a thing. So that in itself was a very fascinating thing for me to hear. And when I read the book, I was like, yes, it lives up to the hype and much more because the
Thank
world
you.
building that you have done, it's mind blowing, and the satire on point. Like I was laughing most of the book, and I was also able to relate to it because even though I have very less corporate experience, I was able to understand what the lead character was going through. So completely relatable for me. So kudos on that.
Thank you.
And before we go ahead, I'm just going to read out one of my favorite passages from the book.
Please,
You have already
I'm
seen it.
flattered. Thank you so much.
I'm also going to show off a bit because book नहीं
Yeah, yeah,
दिखाएंगे तो
yeah.
पढ़ने का क्या फायदा. So this is the book that I'm going to read out from, and this is the part that I enjoyed, like one of the parts that I enjoyed the most because I have highlighted a lot in the entire book. So this is when two new joinees have come into this organization that is in the center of the story, and they have just joined, and it's their first day, and they are going to the canteen, and this is what happens. The structural design of the cafeteria was very different from that of the sales shack they had just come from. Instead of being a shack on one side of the tree, the cafeteria ran all along the girth of the giant in a complete circle. It seemed to have two floors dedicated to it. The food stations were located on the side closer to the giant, and the rest of the floor was filled with tables and chairs for the employees. They walked in and found every seat inside occupied by a uniformed animal. They kept walking to the table at the far side of the entrance, the one occupied by the old mule, who rose to address them. Leave your things here and take a walk about the different food stations we have. Grab whatever you'd like, it's on the house. Fox and Bear dumped their belongings and left with grins on their faces. The closest station to them was a sushi bar. At that station was an octopus wearing a sushi chef headband. He was in a glass bowl with his tentacles sticking out, working the counter. How many plates will it be, Foxy? Hello, we are new here. Do you have a menu? I am serving mango avocado sushi all day. Wow, what variety of mango are you using in it? Do you want a plate or not? Asked the octopus discourteously. Bro, he's just asking about the ingredients you have. Take it or leave it, Harry Berry, said the octopus angrily. Fox butted in. Okay, okay, sorry to bother you. We'll have a look at the other stations and make up our minds. Thank you. They left the sushi bar. Fuck him, bro. He's rude. I agree. But let's keep moving for now. They strolled on to the next station, which was named Bonjour Baguette. It had baguettes, ficelles, broiled fougasses, in the campaigns, and pink objects on display. There were also croissants and sandwiches. Behind the counter, towards the back, by the oven, was a chef's hat wearing rat that came hopping and proceeded to address them with a welcoming smile and open arms. I'm going to stop here because we are already giving away too much. We have already told the audience.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and then we also go on to look at other wide choice of food options in this cafeteria, which we have already looked at, which you have explained in great detail. Once again, I want to mention how amazing the world building is in this book.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Also, based on my reading, I have a couple of questions for you. Are you ready to answer
Sure.
those now? Okay, so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so my first question to you is you have placed this corporate fiction in an animal world. What was your thought behind this? Was there any particular reason you did that? And how did you characterize the animals for their job titles or their personalities? How was the whole process?
So, look, obviously, none of you know this, but initially, this book was written with humans in it. The
Okay.
the day I began writing this book, the first 21 days from then, I actually wrote one page each, and the very first chapter that I wrote was actually with humans in it. It had a very human perspective, and at the end of the 21 days, like I was like, okay, what should I even like, call the main character? I need to have like a name. And it was I remember it was very late at night. I was done with like a very, very long day as well as like a very long day of typing. And my mind was like, like they call it that brain fog and all that. So it was brain fogged, and I just remember penning down the most unexciting name for the lead character as somebody called Joginder Maheshwari. And like I was like, why would you name your lead character? I was like, okay, it's okay. Like, go to sleep. Tomorrow we'll figure it out. We'll give him a much more exciting name. And Jogi the Maheshwari, like, he happened after, like, I'm like, no, there's no way this person becomes a Raj. That's too cliche. Shah Rukh Khan mature of that. I don't want to give it my own name because no, that's not something I want to do. After I was like, okay, which Indian boy name should I give it? And like, these are the thoughts that were going on in my head, and like, it just didn't function at all. And I settled for Joginder Maheshwari, put it down in that document, and shut the computer, slept. Um, then what happened is I was actually speaking with, I'd say like a couple of days later, I happened to be speaking with a friend with a classmate, with an ex-classmate, who actually works as an HR. And
Okay.
I was just telling him that, "Dude, listen, I'm writing this book, and like like this is what I am planning to do in it, and like like, do you think it could land me in trouble?" He said that, look, like if this is what you're planning to do, it could be that you could land legally into trouble. So you need to figure out a way to tell the story without actually like, giving out the names or like giving out much information. Like, I don't know, like let's say that, if you have like a Himanshu in your story, don't be lame enough to like, just change the name to like Shimanshu. That's stupid. So this is now this happens. This happened. I think on the 23rd or the 24th day, right? So
Okay.
like I told you, from day one
Huh.
to day 21, I've actually written 21 pages, and that's 3 weeks of work. And after the phone call, I'm like, man, 3 weeks of work goes down the drain. So this phone call was, I think, from about 9 in the evening to about 11 in the night. So 2 hours in the evening. And after I got off the phone call, I was just like, man, like, like 3 weeks of work goes down the drain. What do I do? What do I do? And I was just, brushed my teeth, took a shower, got into bed, and I'm lying in bed just staring at the ceiling at, what, like I thought I'll write a book, and like, like 3 weeks of work has already gone down the drain. What do I do? Like if he says that, okay, I need to tell this in some other manner, what do I do? And suddenly, and like, I was marinating in the soup for about 2 hours. Like I think I remember around 1 o'clock or close to 1 o'clock when the thought hit me that, why don't you tell the tale with animals? And you won't believe it, but like suddenly, like, all my worries about the 3 weeks of work, as well as my tiredness, as well as like everything else, just vanished. And I'll just take a moment to say hi, friend, to Sukena, who's writing over here. Hello, friend. Hi,
Yes.
friend. So yeah, so I completely, it was like suddenly like I had like a jolt of energy in my body, and then like my mind started running all over the place. And I was like, okay, fine. So if I tell the story with animals, uh, what should the main character's animal be? And then I suddenly remember a particular story. Yeah, then I remember a particular story which I mentioned in the book, and that's how it started. That's how I selected. Like, this will be the first animal. Then I was like, okay, I need another animal that is a biker. Needs to be a biker. And for that, the immediate question was, okay, which animal can ride bikes? Because you these days you may have seen videos on like Instagram or YouTube of this bulldog or so which skates. It knows how to skateboard. And there are these different animals that can surf on surfboards and all that, like a lot of animals into a lot of sports. So I was like, okay, which animal can ride a motorbike? And that's when I remember, like, when I grew up in the 90s. So in the 90s, like, like there used to be this thing that you grew up in the 90s, so it looks like. So they used to be this little, how do I call it? This little fun event of our life called a circus. And like when you went to attend the circus or like witness every the performances, there would be this little bear that would come on a chota sa bike and would ride. And I was like, hey, bears can ride motorbikes. I think they can ride motorbikes. That's how like the second character got in. Okay, this will be a
Okay.
bear. That person is a bear.
Okay.
That character is a bear, and then building on this slowly but steadily, I was very strongly against that. Okay, There should not be a lion, there should not be a tiger, because these are too cliche. Like when you say king of the jungle, it's a lion, right? Similarly, a tiger is like just too cliche. So the next day onwards, I actually sat and did some research. Okay, if I want this character, what should be the animal? This character, what should be the animal? Hyena came very, very easily because I remember like very easily what it was like. Uh, so yeah, a couple of the characters they came really easily. Then you remember that there's that part in it where he's introducing the board of directors. That part took some research. Like those animals, like not all in them, I was exposed to. So in general, actually, the amount of research that I did for all the animals in this book is quite a lot. Like I did not know of the sand of the crabs. I was just like, okay,
Huh.
if I'm designing this, if I want like somebody to do something on the sand, is there an animal that does that? That's how that started. And then
Okay.
I went on to Google it, and like somewhere or the other, like it came up that there's this tiny crab that actually rolls balls. That's its way of eating, and like the byproduct of its eating is actually it rolls the sand into little balls. They are decorated. I mean, the beach is decorated with them, and that's how I started finding the relevant animals one by one. Eagle owl,
Wow.
I think eagle owl was just something like some animals I didn't give any importance to because I was like the amount of research that is going into this is like way too much. I need something that I can easily take and put in. So eagle owl is someone that I did not pay any attention to. When you read the what is it? When you read the second chapter, eagle owl happens like within the first few lines. And when that happened, I don't think I put in any effort. It was just that when I was typing it, I must have said, okay, the gate opened and he saw an owl over there. And then I was like, okay,
Okay.
I don't want to put an owl. I want to put a certain type of owl. And so, you look up like the different kinds of owls, and then maybe the first one was eagle owl, like eagle owl.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yes, a lot of it was very little of it was actually just taking the animal really quickly and just putting it down. But most of it was like with very, very thorough research, like especially the part about the bug lines. There, I needed something specific for like the shifts, the different shifts. So I think yeah that was the amount of work that went into it. I okay so in all my talking I seem to have forgotten what you originally asked me. What did you ask me?
Yeah, it was this only. You're going on the right track. So my question was, why did you place them? Was there a reason to place it in the animal kingdom, which you have already answered? And the next follow-up question was, how did you relate the characters of the personalities of the animals to the roles that you have given, job titles that you have given them?
So look, when it came to like hippopotamus, sheep, gharial, those are like very simple. Gharial, hyena, these are very simple, right? You need someone nasty. When it came, what the toughest one? I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. This is worth knowing because like a couple of years down the lane, this will be like trivia. The one animal that I struggled with most was the animal that turns out to not be a mosquito.
Oh, okay.
Right? I was just like, okay, this is my concept. I need an animal like that. Which animal can I use? And I remember ruminating over this for days and days. As I was typing everything, I knew that, okay, at some point in my story, I'll have to give an explanation for this part. And I need a particular animal, or like, okay, even if, there's an animal, I need to come up with a story for, like, why that animal has functioned in this particular manner. And I- this went on for probably a few days or weeks. I can't remember, but I just remember, this being a tough one. And it suddenly hit me one particular day. Like I'll never forget that moment. I think I was getting ready to go somewhere or like preparing for something. And I think I was mid workout when it suddenly hit me that there's that one particular animal which this is the animal, and I'm like, yeah, that animal fits my requirement. And I immediately noted it down because I didn't want to forget. It was like
Yeah,
this is taking really long to
yeah,
actually
that can
reach, and I
happen
do not
that
want to
you
forget.
think of something and it goes from your mind. So good, good, good thing that you noted it down.
All right,
Good thing
I bookish
Bookish
chronics just finished.
Chronicles is
Priya, that's Priya. That's
Oh,
Priya. That's Priya. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's the one who wrote about Batman. Hi, Priya.
hi, Priya. And she just finished the book and she has put hearts at the end of the sentence, so I'm assuming that she has enjoyed reading it.
Right. All I see is like, two boxes with like crosses and so like I can't see the heart, but thank you so much.
There are two pink hearts at the end of the sentence, so she has enjoyed reading the book. Okay, so thank you so much for answering that. Oh my god, and the detailing that has gone behind it. I while reading it also, I was like, I didn't. First of all, so many animals. Most of the animals, it felt like I was reading Discovery Channel का theory book होता है ना कि इतने सारे animals तो मुझे पता ही नहीं है. I am learning about the animals through the story, and then their
Yeah.
character traits. And I was like, how this guy must have matched what the particular peculiarity of that animal is and matched it with his job title and the way it merges with the story. It's amazing. So, yeah, it
I,
shows the kind of
I'll tell you,
research and
I'll tell you one more fun, I'll tell you one more fun aspect of it. See, you were asking me about the characters, right? So one second, sorry. Right. So about the characters, one other animal that I'd had no problems with was the head of project management.
okay.
Whenever after this interview, whenever you happen to, if you don't remember it and you happen to actually go through the book, you'll realize which animal I'm talking about. And that actual animal actually comes from because when used to see the person, he used to remind me of that particular animal. And like his voice and everything was like, like really on point with that animal. And there had been an animated movie that I watched in which the villain was that animal and he sounded like that and this person used to sound like that. So I always
Ah,
used to nudge my best friend that dude, you need to check this out. Like I'll show you a picture. You see this picture from this animated movie and you take a look at that guy. And like, he saw it and he looked at that person and he immediately began laughing. That's how I actually labeled that animal to that person.
oh,
So there were
nice.
certain very fun aspects to this.
Yeah, I am loving the trivia, and I love how you are also so much invested in answering this question because I can clearly see how passionate you are about the entire writing behind it.
It's not just that. It's not just that. Look, you were kind enough to invite me for this. I will put on a good show for you. There has to be a
Yeah,
point, right? This has to be a good show.
Nilshri is saying here, so you have met the human versions of these animals already.
Uh, that'd be a spoiler. That'd be a spoiler, Nishri. You need to be prepared.
Uh,
And then
so can
Sukena
I
says,
ask
did
you?
you have visions while writing the book? Visions, as in, I mean, yeah, like the basic ones, like okay, I could tell, like okay, maybe I put this person as this, that
Okay,
person as that. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. You can call them visions. Sorry, you were saying something.
And Bouquet Chronics is again, they are reiterating on the point that they have met the human version of sheep. No spoilers. You have to read the book to understand. Okay. Coming to my second question for you, that had a lot of follow up questions from the audience also. So I love this
Yeah, yeah,
interaction
yeah.
already. Okay. My second question for you is: were you skeptical about the book's reception? Because of course, it would attract the readers who have had corporate experience or are currently doing a corporate job. It would be relatable for them. So, did you have any skepticism that it would not be received well or not be understood by an audience who has never had any kind of work experience like that? And
So,
what has
look,
been the feedback from such an audience so far?
we'll get to that part after I answer the first stuff because
Yeah,
by the time I give you my answer, I'll have forgotten what the question is.
yeah.
Look, I'll confess this, okay? Like I don't call myself an avid reader.
Okay.
As a child, I was never into books. I remember like I think I was like 5 or 6 years old and like my dad's close friend got me a book for my birthday and I was like, my God, this is the worst birthday gift I've ever received. And I even remember, like, like that person came home like some other day, and I remember walking up to him and saying, Are you gave me this for my birthday, you take it back. I don't need it. It's okay. You
Oh
take it and you read it.
my
I'm not interested
god.
in reading books. I was a kid. I was a
Okay.
kid. So
Okay.
I barely used to read books. Dude, I never read like school books. Like that's how I was like reading these textbooks is like a horrible thing. So whenever I used to walk into the library, it'd be like, my God, these books are getting fatter and fatter. And if you open any of them, like with even with like a beautiful cover, there's only words and then there are no pictures. I appreciate books that have like like nice pictures or like let's say Robin Hood, right? So if there's like an animated Robin Hood comic or something, then like at least there's something to look at and you can tell that okay, this is happening. But I am not interested in reading books. How it so happened is that I think I was about 12 or 13 years old, and in those days, there used to be this store called Planet M. Maybe you remember it. Planet M.
I
Yes,
do.
a
Yeah, yeah,
plan.
yeah. We are from that
I
generation. I remember.
Right. So I think and I think lifestyle बिल्कुल तब खुला था. Lifestyle तब खुला था. And I happened to walk into a lifestyle which actually had a section dedicated to the Planet M, and उसके बगल में कहीं पे there was a book rack. And the reason I actually turned towards the book rack is वहाँ पे एक novel थी which was an Indiana Jones novel. And I had just recently
What's the
watched my
movie?
first Indiana Jones movie, which was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So I was just I was familiar with the the way they write Indiana Jones like in this slant and yellow highlights and the way they write Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I walked up to the book and I just turned it to the back side, read something. I'm like, okay, you know what? I think I'm interested in reading this. And okay, chalo, let's take it and try reading this. And wait. I think the book was called Indiana Jones and the Dinosaur's Egg by Max McCoy. And I actually remember taking the book and finishing it in one day because I was like, okay, like it's Indiana Jones, so I won't get bored. I can imagine things because if you've seen the movie, then every time you think that Indiana Jones went here, he picked up that egg. You imagine Harrison Ford going there and like picking up that egg in that Indiana Jones garb. So uh, that's how I actually started. And this is what I was 12 or 13, I think. Uske baad mein, I think I read like a series of Max McCoy Indiana Jones books. And then again, there was a lull because I was studying for my school, whatever. Too many stupid experiments to do, too many like God knows chemistry, math, physics, very yuck stuff. What happened is I think some family friend came home and this is probably the year is 1990. Some family friend came home with like a couple of books, and like there was a book on the top which was which when I it had like a cartoonish cover, so I was like very intrigued that "Okay, bhai, maybe it's like a comic book. And I picked it up, and I remember it was like I think it was a bluish cover. I think it was a bluish cover, and the title of the book was Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And that's the first time I actually got to know about Harry Potter. This is 99, right? Like you read us and all that, you came to know about Harry Potter in 97 itself, I think. I didn't get to know about him until 99. And if that person hadn't shown up to my house with that book, I wouldn't have known about Harry Potter for maybe another 3 more years. Because the school that I went to, nobody was talking about Harry Potter. My classmates weren't that exciting. My teachers, why they were very, how do you call it? Students were studious. Let's call teachers very treacherous. So there were treacherous teachers who never talked about anything other than, say, math, physics, chemistry, and like, very stupid subjects. Uh, in addition to that, so yeah, that's how I started reading, right? Like I read Harry Potter and I liked it. And then I think I read maybe another book. After that, I was off to America for my studies. There, I was too busy studying, surviving, everything. So I read not one book in America. I only read comic books. And then I came back to India, and like the girl that I sort of, someone say this low, the parents are like in the neighboring, I don't want them to hear about this, but there was this girl that like I sort of had a crush on,
Okay.
and she gifted me two books. She gifted me two books, and like
Okay.
I was like, yeah, okay, books. And she was like, you read them. I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll read them. And I actually started reading them. Like this was part of a trilogy. So this is Amisha's first two books. Yeah,
Okay.
Amisha's first two books.
That's Shiva.
I started reading the first one. Shiva trilogy. the what was that, the disciples of Meluha, somethings of Meluha, right? The somethings of Meluha. What's it called? Does
It doesn't
anybody in
matter.
the
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right,
We
right?
have a
I think
lot
they'll
of
write it.
Amish fans. We have a lot of Amish fans. They'll figure out.
Right. So the first book I read it, and ever since then, I would say that on and off, I've been picking up books. I walk into a library, I check out the fiction section or I check out like any section. I walk the entire length of the library. If there's like a cover that attracts me or like if there's like a title that attracts me, I go and pick it up. And like like Alistair MacLean, like particularly, like I watched Where Eagles Dare, and I watched the movie and the movie was brilliant. After that, like I figured out that okay, like this is based on a book, I want to read that book as well. And uske pehle, like I would say like about 10, 15 years before that, I watched The Guns of Navarone. So when I found out that Alistair MacLean is the author for both of these books and movies, I was like especially interested. And so there was a phase in my life where I was specifically reading all Alistair MacLean's. Like there was a stack of books at the library, I think about 10 or 12. And I would go there and like like pick one, etc. I would arrange them in like order because librarians don't care. They would do whatever, and I'd be like, "Go, what is this disrespect? You're like, you're not putting it the right way." And then like I'd put it up all the right way, and then like I'd go and pick it up, read it, come back, pick up the next one. I read that entire lot. So ever since then, yes, like like I've been reading one book or the other. Like I think my current read is it's actually a Richard Sharp novel by Bernard Cornwell called Sharp's Triumph. This is
Okay.
for those who know about Richard Sharp. He's a British soldier, and some of Bernard Cornwell's Richard Sharp books are actually based. It's historical fiction. So since it is British, a lot of it is actually like during the India phase when the Brits are in India and all of that. So
Okay.
I've been reading on and off ever since then, and so when I actually sat down to write the book, right? I was like, okay, like first of all, you don't read that much, and these days, like like okay, whatever English grammar and all that we were taught in school, I don't remember any of it. I like honestly, like when I started writing the book, I was like, dude, where the heck, when do you use a comma? My biggest question, more than like what you'll write in the book, was like, where will I put the comma? Where do I put the dash? Where do I put the semicolon? And uh, so yeah, the one of the biggest hindrances was like you're not a reader. You don't have like a lot of experience with what people want to read. And I was like, okay, like after like maybe one or like a couple of hours of battling mentally with that thought, I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just write something. Maybe someone or the other will read it. And so I wrote something. Right? This is post the 21-day phase, where it's actually the annual version. I wrote
Huh.
that, and that's when it occurred to me that like okay, dude, the first chapter has come out like really well. The first chapter that I'm talking about is a chapter called Friday. That's the one where they join.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is you guys don't know this, but what you read is only 26 pages, right? The original was actually 40 pages long. The entire book was
Oh.
like double the number of pages.
Oh.
I had to cut it down quite a lot because of certain feedback and all that. So all the operations explained were a lot longer. The characters made were like about 500 plus. I actually
Oh.
made 500 plus characters. And I'm not talking about the characters like Fox. I'm not talking about characters like Hyena. I'm talking about there are certain names that I made up and included in the book, which you readers are familiar with. Those were actually 500 plus.
Oh
So,
my God.
so yeah, like I wrote the first chapter, and it was actually like very fun. Like coming up with it. Like I used to have a diary and a pencil, and like I used to uh, design the outlay that okay, like so if this is like operations thing, we want to explain the operation. Let's say that that they farm over here, and then it's packeted over here, and then it goes over here, and then like here is dispatch and all of that. I thought of all of that. I had sketches and all that made. ultimately I was like, okay, like, like should there be like this, etc. After deciding on it, after writing it up, that's when I felt that okay, you've actually done a really good job with the first chapter. Like I was personally proud of myself. It wasn't like really well written. Like if I think back, like there's a concept like of talking heads or something is what it is called. Like over here, like let's say that this is a book conversation. So there's Manali Desai and Gaurav Rao who are talking, right? If people are to blank out the screen, they can understand who we are by our voices.
Yeah.
But let's say that it is just one voice, then how will they differentiate who the two speakers are? So obviously the conversation between like Manali says this, Gaurav says this. All that wasn't there initially in it. So like a lot of places it was like, who is the person who was saying this? And I knew it because obviously like I'm writing it. So there were these tiny intricacies and all of that, and a lot of this was taken into consideration. And after I wrote the first chapter, I was like really proud of myself that okay, like what you've written is actually really good. And there's just one thing that I'm going to do, which is to ensure that the flow of the story stays exactly like this. That I don't want this to be a book in which like like some, let's take movies. Okay, a lot of movies like like how do we take it? Like, take a James Bond movie, right? Every time there is that opening sequence which is supposed to make you like, wow. But after that wow scene, after the song sequence, once it starts up, you realize, my God, what a bad movie, right? I don't want that happening with my book. I was like, yeah, I'm going to maintain this rhythm all the way up to the end. None of my readers will complain about it that, somewhere or the other, like, like it went bad and all of that. So now that coming to your question, when you ask, like, was I skeptical about it? Honestly, I was never skeptical about it because I was like, what I'm doing is I'm certain has never been done before, and I am very certain of my work. It is not boring. There's no way in hell this is boring. Anyone who doesn't like to read this probably has some mental issues, but there is no way in hell this is boring. And if you read it, it's interesting. It's fun. Like the Batman theory that I came up with. I was seated right here. This is where this book was written. And like, like I'll enact it for you, like, like because I was like, okay, like let's say that humanity has vanished, right? Why has humanity vanished? And then like immediately like, I was just looking over here, like thinking here and there, etc., etc., etc. And then suddenly hit me that hey, there was a bat, and so let's just say that that bat it killed all of humanity, and if it has killed humanity, then obviously it is like the god of all the animals and all that because it has ushered in the age of the animals. If it has ushered in the age of the animals, how is it ushered in the end? Then again, like there was some thought and there was some head swinging here and there, a lot of thinking, lot of thinking, lot of thinking, and suddenly I remembered Batman. And I was seated right here, and I remember laughing and ha 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 ha, ha Batman, Batman, and that's how I formulated that entire Batman sequence. So no, I am there. I never had any doubts in my mind that like what the reception would be, because I was like, this book is definitely something special. The people who like to uh, read this kind of stuff, like there are hardcore technical people who like to read nothing but like engineering textbooks. There are hardcore newspaper readers. There are hardcore like God knows what. If you want to read like self-help books and all, then probably this book won't make any help to you. But people who enjoy reading, people who like to laugh, will love my book. And so nowhere at any point, at any time while I was, like writing the book or any time after that till date, have I ever doubted the book's capability? And this is my and the Junglee Bosses is my best work. It is something that I am proud of. It is something that I can pit against anything. Who's that guy? Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, right? He invented the telephone. I can say I wrote Angry Junglee Boss. That's the level of
Wow.
confidence that I have with this book. So yeah, this is the Angry Junglee Bosses is my finest work. It's definitely my finest work. I think
Wow.
I've answered your question. There was a part B to it also. What was it?
Yeah. What has been the reception from such readers who have not had any corporate experience or very little corporate experience?
So, even people who have not had any corporate experience, I took it into mind that like when I write this book, I'll write it in such a manner that anyone who has not been an employee will also be able to understand. That's why the in-depth explanation, especially when it comes to the last chapter, where
Yeah.
specifically explained that, there used to be a concept that humans used to work for like so and so months, and after that, like they used to be told that, okay, you've performed for this many months and you've proved your worth. We are happy to take you and all of that. So I was particularly, no, I was never doubtful about it until now. Touch wood, people who have actually had no corporate experience, and actually I feel they've loved it more because
Oh,
they're like, wow,
oh,
like,
that's
I need this.
wonderful.
Yeah, like if you go through the reviews on my Instagram page, most of them are like college students or something. And they've actually never had any corporate experience, and they know that after college they will be getting into jobs and all that. So it serves as a lesson for all of them. And they seem to have loved it a lot more.
Oh, that's lovely. So, all in all kind of readers have embraced it really well.
Yes, yes. I just Sid. Sid is here, right? So I think Sid works with KPMG, if I'm not wrong, and he really liked it. So I was like, yeah, okay, see, at least it's had the effect on like the right segment and all that. The employees, I'm certain anyone with like any kind of work experience would know about this. Any office worker would know about this. But I was particularly keen to know what like college students and all that, what like people in the younger age group would know about it. And I'm glad that the reviews that I have received and all that have been very good.
Lovely. And congratulations. It's well deserved.
Thank you,
As I have been
thank you,
constantly saying that I really enjoyed the book and
thank
you've done a
thank
fabulous
you,
job. So,
thank you.
okay, that brings me to the end of my questions. You have also read my book, Heartstrings and Harmonies. Please share your experience.
I actually read Heartstrings and Harmonies, and uh, I have to really say that your first of all your the cover design, like uh, when we think of a book, many a times not only is it the title that makes impact on us, but mostly it is the cover. Because illustrated art is something else, which is why, like, like I was particularly, I put in a lot of effort into designing this exact cover. So the title as well as the cover makes a lot of like
Yeah.
impact on any reader or any person. I was really taken by your cover that you've designed. Okay, it's a really nice cover. Like I have it in front of me, and like like I really like that nice cute scene on the balcony where like there's this yeah that cover. I really like this cute scene like on the balcony with like the night in the background and all that, and like two people holding each other's hand and all that. Like, the cover is on point. It's really good. And I have a question about the title, which I will ask you in the rapid fire. But I've read like a couple of the stories, and there's one that I really liked, and I'm actually going to
Sure.
read a
Sure,
part of
sure,
that
sure.
one. So, all right. Neeta, why can't you come early for once? You know how important today is. Neeta's mother, Aruna, complained as soon as she entered the house. Neeta shrugged and got busy readying herself. Let's get this over with, she thought to herself, putting on the sari and the blouse her mother had bought specifically for this occasion. Don't forget to wear the earrings and the bangles. I've kept them near the mirror, Aruna shouted from the kitchen. Holding back the record, Neeta wordlessly did as instructed. Ting tong. The house was bustling soon as Sunil, Neeta's father, opened the door and welcomed the guest. Come out when I call your name, not before. Carry the tray of tea and the snacks with you, her mother directed. By the way, this part is like so funny. It's very, very Indian. Uh, her mother directed before going out from the kitchen and into the hall to join her father. And then it comes, Ure, khule aasmaan mein khwabon ke parinde, oh. Neeta almost dropped the vessel she was holding, wondering whose phone had rung and how it had her favorite song as a ringtone. Before she could ponder further, Neeta heard her mother calling out her name. Brushing all thoughts aside, Neeta walked out holding the tray filled with dread and trepidation. This is our daughter Neeta. Hello, beta. The elderly man and woman said. Neeta smiled and kept the tray on the table. They say. Then she folded her hands in greeting. Namaste, she crooned in her softer Namaste. The response was immediate. Both the man and the woman smiled, pleased with what they saw. This is Aruna's son, the woman said, pointing to the chair on her left. Neeta turned in that direction and said, Namaste again. Now, I really like how you captured that actual typical moment of that Rishta thing, yeah, the boy's family comes and then the girl comes, shows up from like this other room with behind the curtains and all that, with like a tray of God knows what. and she serves it to them. She like namaste, namaste, and all that. That's captured over here really well. Um, so yeah, this one is actually my favorite story, and it's not only that. Ure Asama mein Khwabon ke Parinde is actually one of my favorite songs too. So like I really like that part, and this whole concept of like like writing stories around songs is really cool. That's what like I really liked about your book.
Thank you.
So I actually have like a question or two for you, and let me just ask you what they are.
Sure, sure.
Okay, you wrote a book using 29 of your favorite songs. Which song amongst the 29 holds the best memory space in your mind and why?
Oh wow. So I love all the 29 songs, and they, of course, they are some of my all-time favorites. Not all of them are my favorites, but yes, most of them are my all-time favorites. But the one song that I really, really find very special is Moh Moh Ke Dhage. And there's this particular line in that song, which I've also used in the story, of course. Tu hoga zara pagal, tune mujhko hai chuna. Because I find myself very quirky and very difficult to like. मुझे लगता है कि मेरे साथ कौन ही रह लेगा. That particular line, uh, both my husband and I have dedicated to each other, and this began long before he got married. We really liked this song, and we dedicated these lines to each other. तुम पागल हो, तुम. Are you sure you want to live with me? You want to get married to me,
Uh,
right? So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so yeah, that particular song has a special place in my heart.
Okay. It's really interesting because see, I could gather as much that if you actually written these stories around songs, then these songs have to have some sort of special meaning to you. Many a times like a story is written in the way that okay like you find that relatability factor that there's a particular song and you feel that hey I think I can write a story and this, so a lot of people that pick it up, but if you've actually taken 29 then there's a high chance that you've actually picked up your favorite songs and like written a story. But so yeah, I really like that. This is like the USP of your book, which is like really cool and really unique. Acha, this is the second question. I noticed that you published this book on Kindle. Any sensible publishing house should want to be associated with it. Have you approached them? If yes, how has the process been? If not, why not?
So, my process is like this. I don't have a lot of patience as a person. Like, uh, after publishing 9 books and having been in the industry for a while, I know that traditional publishing is going to take time, and it's not going to be easy, first of all, to crack that code, to be able to, entice them and convince them to publish your book, first of all. And then, even if it does, it is going to take at least 2 to 3 years. That kind of patience I do not have as a writer, as a person also. So when since my third book, which was in the year 2020, that's when I came to know about Kindle Direct Publishing, and I was like, this is God sent. I can self-publish these books. I don't have to rely on anyone. I by the time I wrote my third book, I knew I was doing a fairly good job as a writer, and if I publish them by myself, I had a reader base and I can develop it further. So I was confident of that. But since that third book till the ninth, I've also grown as a writer. Now, when I
Yeah,
go back
yeah.
to that third book, and when I read this book, coincidentally, the third book was also short fiction, and it also had, a collection of stories. And when I compare that book with this, Heartstrings and Harmonies, which is also another short stories collection, I compare the two books, and I'm like, oh my god, how stupid was I to believe in myself so much कि कोई ये भी पढ़ेगा.
Why?
So, because I see the difference in my writing. And when I compare the two books, I'm like, that was not my best work. This is definitely my best work till now. Of course, I don't want to undermine my own work and say that it was trash. But when you compare the two, you realize that,
You can
there's a huge
always tell the
difference.
difference, and obviously the
Yeah.
very first one, like compared to what the book is, if you talk about my first draft, when I go back to, I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? So that's very normal. That's
Yeah.
perfectly, that's actually something to be expected.
Yeah. So, since my third book, that I have maintained that process of first publishing the ebook on KDP and then approaching publishers who might be interested or acquiring the rights for the book or having them published through them. And so far the experience has been good. The paperback that I just showed right now to you, it's been traditionally published now, and I'm very
Awesome.
happy with the result. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So thank you so
Congratulations.
much. So
That's a big thing.
yeah, and yeah, and the reception has been good for me so far through KDP and then approaching the publisher and having them accept it as under the traditional publishing model. So I intend to continue doing that. But having said that, I also know that I'm improving as a writer. Maybe that's how my chances have
Yes,
become better.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah. So that's it.
No, that's it. I think that's a fabulous response, and yeah, like I'm very happy that it's actually traditionally published. It's brilliant. So while I was writing, I'm sorry, like I'll add to your bit,
Yeah, yeah. Please.
but while I was writing Angry Junkie Bosses, I have this ex-classmate whose father had started writing technical books on engineering when he himself was a engineering student. So this
Okay.
friend of mine, he was telling me that, like, okay, whatever you're writing, if you actually get published, that in itself is a very big thing. And I
Yes.
never got it. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, there's things like Kindle, there's like so many, and like, dude, like what I'm writing is like something that's never been done. People will run after me to give me a publishing deal. Like, I'll get published. What I don't have any. I say that that'll not be a problem at all. He said, no, no, you wait and see what happens. Just wait and see what happens because like, but yeah, believe me, if you actually get published, it's a very big thing and you should actually be proud of yourself. And
Yeah.
then I know the process. I know what you're talking about. And I was like, my God, like, this is just too much. But ठीक है, so yeah, my second question for you is done.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end of the long form questions that we had for each other, and I think we have done a wonderful job. So kudos to us on answering those. Uh, and that brings us to my favorite bit of the episode, which is the rapid fire
Uh-huh.
round. How we'll do this is we'll do back and forth. One question I will ask, and then you answer, and then you ask your question for me. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So my first question to you is, we have a secondary character who's very important to the main character in the book, which is the Himalayan bear,
Yes.
who is like that work BFF that we all have at a workplace. Somebody we can rely on, somebody we befriend immediately and come to trust. So, who was that person for you in your, work life or even currently? If you have somebody like HB in your life.
So, yeah, I do have an HB in my life, and he is the real inspiration for the HB. Uh, but, like, to answer your question, HB, if you think about him as a concept, HB represents that one really good friend of yours at work, that really good well-wisher of yours at not only work but in life in general also, that you can confide in, that is your anchor in a particular
Hmm.
situation. Like Angry Jungie Bosses is set in an office setting, right? So that's my work BFF. Think about it in that sense. Whoever the main character is, that's his work BFF, my work
Hmm.
BFF, or like your work BFF, whoever wants to be in that office. Were this story not like Angry Junglee Bosses, were it like angry, idiotic teachers, and it was in a school setting, it would have been like a classmate. So HB is a concept that represents that really good friend that always has your back, that is always willing to support you, fight for you. When your mind is going along like in the wrong direction to actually correct you, all of that. The Himalayan bear is, take it as a concept. It is that I have plenty of HBs in my life, and but like this HB holds a very special place in my heart, and we literally, I'm proud of saying this. We literally catch up on a see. Textual catching up is very regular, happens on a daily basis. But with work and all that, like we are busy, and even if like we don't get to like meet each other in person, we have that once in a week call or something to like catch up. And
Yeah.
like when we catch up, it's like a proper 1 hour, 2 hour call and all that. So think about it, HP as that.
Yeah.
Now my turn, right?
Yes.
So, okay, I really want to ask you, why heartstrings and harmonies and not songs and stories?
वो feel नहीं आता ना. I mean, songs and stories is very like straightforward and simple, and I've never been that kind of a person to have very simple, straightforward titles. This I can tell you, this is the simplest and the most straightforward title that I have ever had for any of my books. And even in that, if I had kept it songs and stories, मुझे रात को नींद ही नहीं आती. Because already I have, you know, already I have, kept it very simple as per my previous experiences and, my expectations of the self. But अगर उससे heartstrings and harmony से भी simple मैं कुछ कर लेती, तो I would not have been satisfied personally as the creator of the book.
Okay, okay. See, because I asked that because like when I was reading the book, I was like, right, like this book is called Heartstrings and Harmonies. But I was like, ki, like so the concept of this book is that there are songs, there are actual songs, and there's like stories wound around them. So I was just thinking along, parallelly that okay, like if I had written this book, like what would I have called? And I was like, okay, maybe songs and stories would have also been like one of the options that I could have considered. But I'm glad that you're happy with Heartstrings and Harmonies. I was just asking that because like this was my theory.
So if you
So
look
now
at
it's your
my
question.
previous, yeah, but if you look at my previous book titles, any of them, take any of them, they have all been kind of tongue twisters, and they have two-way meaning. For instance, just the book that I published before this, it's Knight in Shining Armor, but it's not the Knight in Shining Armor that you think. It's the Knight Raat Wala Knight.
That's all. Okay, yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it.
So yeah, most of my book titles are like that. They are tongue twisters, and they have words which can be, deciphered in a different meaning. Like they have different pronunciations also. So when you read them out and when you read them out aloud, they have different phonetic. I hope you're getting what I'm saying.
I get it. I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I think now it's your question.
Yes. So my next question to you is an animal from AGB that you want to work with and why?
That I would. That I want to work. I'm okay with bison. I'm okay
While you
with.
are answering that, I also want you to answer who would you never want to work with. दोनों तरफ कर लो. Whom would you
Okay, so
want to
दोनों
work
तरफ.
and
So when you say work with, I'm okay working with any of the animals other than sheep and hippopotamus. I would love to work with bison. It was very, very exciting. I would love to work with liger. I was love to work with elephant G. I would love to work with any of the other HODs that are represented in the book because I think they were all fine, other than hippopotamus, obviously. I would no way in hell would I want to work with hyena because Jesus, that's just too nasty, filthy. Uh, who else would I not want to work with? I probably would not want to work with like a cranky ocelot and a cranky octopus.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, nice. Your turn.
So, okay, my question is heartstrings and harmonies. If you hold that book in your hands, please. So, is the cover representative of you and your husband? Is this like what happened? Is this like the way that you guys decided that you're going to get married? Like that conversation, like pakka mujhe se karni hai shaadi, does that happen in this setting?
No, no, not entirely that way, but definitely our love for Hindi music did smooth things along for us and gave us a better clarity that see, basically when your tastes in this is my belief. I don't want to call it a global truth, but I believe that if your tastes are matching in at least two or three creative fields, like outside of your work, that makes things easier for you as
Yes,
partners. So,
yes.
so we are both movie lovers. We love traveling, and our love for music is also similar. Like we love music, वो तो है ही, but having the same kind of music, loving or vibing to the same kind of music is also important. वरना पता चला उसको ये song पसंद है, तुम्हें ये song पसंद है, तो तुम सुनोगे क्या साथ में?
Hey,
when you
but
are
then
traveling together.
there's one more point you guys love, right? It's your love for that Vicks Vapor Up. Vicks Vapor Up candy. You guys love that. You guys love that. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge it to all the people watching your live. You do love your Vicks Vapor Up candy.
I have to clarify why we were eating those candies, because both of us are in India and the temperature change has not been very kind to us. We have both got sore throat. That's why. Yeah, we are both NRIs, and we are visiting from the Netherlands, and the Indian weather is just not suitable for us anymore. It seems.
Where are
So
you
yeah.
visiting from?
Netherlands,
Where are you visiting from? Okay, awesome,
Netherlands.
awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, the temperature change didn't agree with us, so both of us had sore throats, and we are hogging on those candy, Vicks वाला Vapor वाला candies.
You
और उसमें भी
know, even
खाली रैपर डाल दिया.
I have crossing too. I like crossing. I prefer crossing. So wait,
Nice.
now is it my question? Is it your question?
It's my turn. Yes. So
Ah, okay.
my next question to you is an animal or a work profile from ABB which took up the maximum research and writing time, and how so?
So if you're talking about like an animal profile, uh, I would say what really took some. Okay, I told you right. I told you that, but that the animal
No,
who is
mosquito.
supposed to be a mosquito took like really long. But secondary to that, like the one that took almost as much time, but like much lesser than that animal, was the board of directors. I
Okay.
really needed to come up with like apt animals for that. And so that did take some research, but I'll give you the better answer to your question, not just related to the animals, but this book was written in 10 months. Okay, like
Okay.
every day I made a promise to myself that every day I will write one page, no matter what. In those 10 months, I remember there was one exact day when I actually wrote just a line. And
Hmm.
there was definitely not another day. There was no day when I never wrote anything. I'm very certain there was no other day when I wrote like a paragraph or anything. There was just this one day when I wrote only one line. Every other day I wrote one page each. Uh,
Wow.
the part in there's that part in the chapter called Wednesday where Bison and Fox are discussing the terms and conditions for the monstrous project. That was something that took a lot of research. That is something that like really brought my thinking to a halt because I was like, what do I write for this? I need something which is like, it should be realistic
Hmm.
because it should not be something like people who are reading this should be able to relate with it that, yeah, like, our office terms and conditions actually like this, like a business contract is exactly like this. That took up a lot of research. In addition to writing that one page every day, that took an immense amount of research. Like I remember two hardcore weeks where I was like, okay, like really researching. I wrote something on the page and then I was like, yeah, I don't think like, like this is meeting the requirement. I need something else. So I'd spend like days, I spent easily 2 weeks researching what needed to go into that. That's the part that took like really long.
Interesting. And yeah, actually, the detailing in that was quite impressive, I must say. Now that you're thinking or say talking about it, I remember while reading thinking that, my God, this guy has really gone into this deep, because
No,
this
so
is
so
not something.
the sorry, go on. This is not something.
This is not something that, it's not a layman's terms, because you need to deep dive into a topic like that to write about that in such, you know, with a deep knowledge you have to write about it. So you must
Yeah,
have
because
read like in depth
if you
about it.
actually read those if you actually read those terms and they are so boring, so boring, so boring that the actual scene depicted and then like like his brain gets fried, that actually happens. And it's just that you have to make it fun in a manner. You have to make it like
Yes.
really fun in a manner so that your reader doesn't go like, my God, this book has suddenly turned boring and I'm not reading anymore. So you really have to put some work into it. And there was also this conversation with like the same guy who told me that that if you said this in a humanly world, you could get into trouble. Like the guy who got me thinking that said this in like some other world. He had said one line like during my conversation that like look, if you're writing something, ensure that you're writing it in a manner that people who are actually working are able to say that yes, this actually does happen in the office. This guy has clearly has some work experience. He knows where he's coming from. Otherwise, like anybody can write anything, like like it may not sound
Right.
exactly that. Like
Hmm.
if I'm talking like say gun mechanism, right? So what do you know about like a gun? You just know that you hold it in your hand, like you cock it and then you press the trigger and it shoots. What people don't know is how do you load it? There's a spring in it. How do you load it? How do you put it on and then like turn off the safety and then like how you have to align it. There's a barrel. It needs to be oil. Everything. Unless you give something along those lines, people your readers will always think like ठीक है कुछ कर दिया, right? There's nothing that
Yes.
special about it. So
Yes.
this is the part that sets you apart from everyone else. That yeah, I know what I'm talking about.
Ayush is here who's saying he's a big fan of yours.
Oh, hey, Ayush friend, how are you, man? Good to see you here. And you don't need to call me sir, man. Like Gaurav is good. Like Cross is fine too. Front is fine too. Front is fine too. I literally these days like all my Bookstagram and everyone like I just save the thing as okay like so and so front. Like I would call you man. I call you Manali front. Okay, so my question right now, was music an integral part of your childhood?
Oh yes, I am a true blue 90s bacha. Matlab, my father was also has always been a music lover, and my love for Anu Malik and all the 90s plus 90s songs is thanks to him. क्योंकि I remember waking up to music every morning.
Yeah.
That was his technique, when मतलब रोज तो उठना ही पड़ता था 6 बजे, कोई ऑप्शन नहीं था। रिक्शा आ जाती थी तो रेडी होना पड़ता था स्कूल के लिए। अदरवाइज इवन ऑन हॉलीडेज एंड ऑन स्पेशली ऑन फेस्टिव ओकेजन्स जब हम नहीं उठते थे ना, व्हाट माय फादर यूज्ड टू डू वाज प्ले द वर्स्ट हिंदी सॉन्ग्स टू वेक अस अप।
Like what? Like
ही न्यू
what?
कि
Tell us which was the worst.
okay, so I was not really a fan of songs that are sad, like sad romantic songs मुझे नहीं पसंद थे बचपन
Uh-huh.
में। Now that you understand the lyrics, you have a different kind of appreciation for those. But
Right.
there's a particular song, क्या जानू सजन होती है क्या गम की शाम. I used to hate it as a teenager, and my father used to play it on loop every morning. Like हम नहीं उठते थे तो मेरे पापा को पता था कि ये सॉन्ग इन्हें नहीं पसंद है. Start playing it on loop, ये उठ जाएंगे. So yeah,
Very,
music has been a
very
really
fun way to do it.
integral part of my growing up years, and also I have been away from my family for a long time. I when I turned 18, I moved out of from my house, from my parents' house, and I've been living alone for a long time after that. And then eventually I got married to my husband, but there was a period like 10 to 12 years where I was away from the family, just living with flatmates. And in that time, you don't have many friends. So you befriend books and music. So
Yes,
even in that
yes.
period, books and music have been a really, close friends of mine, I can say. They have been
Okay.
there for me. So
No,
even,
no,
yeah,
definitely, definitely. Music helps a lot. Music helps
yeah.
like a lot. Okay, so now it's your turn. Your turn to
Right.
ask me something.
Yes. So this is a very interesting question, and I really want to know your thought process behind it. Out of any of the top 4 or 5 actors in the world, I want you to pick up pick their names and match their personalities with an animal from Angry Hungry Bosses. They can be anyone
Match it
out
with
of the
an
Hindi film industry also.
right. So, like I was telling you, when I actually came up with these names, I didn't come up with just the names that are depicted in the book. The total number was a little over 500, and I actually have all of those characters with me. So I can tell you this, like, see, you grew up in the 90s, right? You're fond of music. You definitely have heard of this song called Made in India,
Anushka Sharma,
right?
yes.
Anisa Chennai. So Alisa Chennai's animal version would be Alisa Chinchilla. because there's
Oh.
a cute little fluffy animal called a chinchilla. It's like it's a sort of rodent, but it's not like a mouse or a rat, but it's a cuter version. It's like a guinea pig. So Alicia Chinchilla is one, and I think I may have mentioned this in the book. I think I made a yeah. I think I mentioned this in the book.
You have
I'm not.
mentioned
I'm not.
her as an artist, yes. You have.
ठीक है, okay, like give me. Let me like figure it out. Who was? Okay, Amitabh Bachchan. Take Amitabh Bachchan, right?
Hmm.
So there actually is an insect called a Wallace's bee. It is the
Okay.
largest bee of all the bees, all the honey bees. And Amitabh Bachchan is also known as Big B,
Hmm.
right? So I've
Right.
actually come up with like his version as the Big B, B-E-E. And it was supposed to be a Wallace's giant honeybee. Uh,
Okay.
then Breaking Bad has this lawyer in
Hmm.
it, a really fun
Better Call
guy.
Saul.
Better Call Saul Goodman. So Saul Goodman is played by Bob Odenkirk, and I was like, okay, I have to come up with like his animal version as well. And so I looked it up. I did a lot of research, and there's actually an animal called a Kirk's Dick.
Okay.
And so I actually made it that, like if like the animals have taken over the world and who would be like, the next Saul Goodman, and it would be Bob Odenkirk's Dick. Because yeah,
Nice.
like
Yeah.
you have to like writing this book really exposed me to like a lot of different animals which I clearly had no idea about. Like a Dick I had never heard of. Bob Odenkirk Dick is like that's where that name comes from. Then who else? Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis, right? What's that movie? Die Hard. Die Hard. We grew up watching Die Hard 1, 2, 3, 4. So Bruce Willis के लिए like the one that I came up with was a blue whale called Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis. So that's like three names, right? Then there is. I'm going through my entire folder, so just bear with me.
No problem. This is really interesting. Going to the creator's head. It's like reading your mind
So,
currently. I like it.
have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yes, I have.
Right, Game of Thrones made that the Targaryen protagonist, the girl, what's her name? The one
Daenerys.
with the Daenerys,
Daenerys.
Daenerys, Daenerys, Daenerys Targaryen. So I was like, okay, I can put that actress down as well. And so when I was thinking about, it, I was like, okay, like what kind of an animal can like represent her and all of that. And then I remember that it's not just Daenerys Targaryen. She's actually known as Khaleesi. So I put her name down as Khaleesi. She's a leech. She's a leech named
Ah,
Khaleesi.
nice.
And ठीक है, let's talk about this. So in a world full of animals, who would be the next Superman?
Hmm.
Who would be the
Who
next
would be the
Superman,
next?
right?
Hmm.
Superman. So I was thinking about like all the actors that have played it, and then I remember that Henry actually begins with a N. Henry is actually a hen, right? So like I came up with the name Henry Cavill, and he's like a type of chicken that's actually like the largest version because Henry
Okay.
Cavill in general is like he's a giant of a man. So
Ah,
there's actually like a rooster or something that's actually really big. So I picked up like the hen version from them and like gave it a name in that manner, Henry Cavill.
nice. Nice.
There's what else is there? Right, Batman, right? So Batman recently had Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson, like you definitely know about Robert Pattinson. So I was like, he's like Robert Pattinson. Then I like, okay, he just played Batman, so let's make him Robert Pattinson
Hmm.
instead of
Nice.
Pattinson, Pattinson. And
Patterns.
I
Yes.
can go on and I can go on and on, but like I think I've covered like what, like about five or six,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. More definitely five.
I
All six are
yeah.
you.
Yeah, so okay, I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more. Do you know of Rana Daggubati?
Yes.
The guy
I
who
do.
plays the
The other
antagonist
guy in
in
the, yeah, antagonist in
Bahubali.
Bahubali. Yes.
Bahubali, right? So I was thinking, okay, okay, Rana Daggubati, what do we, let's make him Pirana Daggubati.
Ah, nice.
Pirana, yeah. So there were a couple, there were a lot of them like this. It's going down like memory lane now. Came up with them
But
like
I
over
like
an
it.
extended period of time.
You've done a wordplay, which is like something I do with my book titles. So I really enjoyed this.
No, so I'm particularly proud of Shahrukh Khan and Python Hathaway. I was like really thrilled that wow, like like okay, these two have come. Shahrukh Khan when it came to, I was like, man, like this is brilliant, this is brilliant. And then Anne Hathaway was someone that like I was really struggling with, like what do I do, like what animal and all of that. And out of nowhere, like it comes like okay, let's make her a Python and call her Python Hathaway. That makes sense. That actually makes sense and all of that. So that's where the animals come from. Then now it's my question to you, right? Um, Hi Lima Das 920. Hello, hello,
Hi,
hello, friend.
Lima. Hello, friend.
Um, has your husband read the book? Be honest. Has he read the book?
Not even one story. I
Yeah, even
मैंने उम्मीद छोड़ दी है.
my 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 parents haven't read the book. I live with them. My parents haven't read the book. Mm,
This is like an ongoing thing with me. I have come to the realization that the people closest to you don't value you enough.
so there was I would say like about 12 or 13 years ago, I came across this situation in which somebody came. I was told about this. I wasn't at home at that time, and my mother told me that, look, like, so and so person was home, and we were having lunch, and he made this one statement, which was that, no matter how high you rise in your life, no matter how high you rise in your life, your family, you'll always be that same monkey.
Exactly. Yes. That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. My last question to you. None of the animals or characters from AJB are shown to have or even talk about their family. Was this an intentional thing?
So, let's call it an intentional thing. There was actually going to be a very, very tiny bit about a family aspect of hyenas.
Okay.
That was actually supposed to go there because it was actually really funny. But then what happened is I realized that like if you start talking about families in this storyline, it sort of deviates from the story,
Hmm.
and that actually pulls down your reading experience because you're like, okay, okay, I if I give you a chocolate, okay,
Hmm.
I give you a chocolate. I'm assuming that you're not somebody who's fond of like making chocolate. I'm giving you the chocolate, you eat it, you enjoy it, right? If you like start getting into it, like ये chocolate कैसे बनाते हैं, इसमें कितना कोको डालते हैं, इसमें कितना चीनी है, इसमें इसको कितनी देर के लिए bake करते हैं, इसको कितनी देर के लिए freeze करते हैं, and all that fun is gone, right? I just gave you a chocolate. I'll be like, shut up and eat it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I felt that getting into like the family aspect of it was not in line with the tale that I was telling. And if I wanted to, and there's a pace, a setting that I wanted for this book. If I
Hmm.
wanted to keep it, I was like, okay, every other aspect, I don't think it's wise to touch it. And unless and until I can make it funny, and if I can make it funny, okay, I can make it funny. But this book is not just about funny, right? It has to fall in line with the storyline. That's the most important aspect because as a debut novelist, and I'd already told you that I was certain that I was going to maintain the entire rhythm. Anything that affects that rhythm, no way. So I felt that getting into like the family aspect of it and all that was it wouldn't have affected it would have affected the story in not such a good way. So I
Okay.
steered clear of it. completely.
Okay.
Now it's my
It's a very
last
good
question to you, right? Thank you.
last question.
Thank you. Um, in the 29 stories that you've written, did you actually put down the story of how you met your husband? If not, why?
No,
Why? Why?
because two reasons. I do intend to write a full length story about that someday, not like
Nice.
in the near future, but sometime in the future, in the next few years, I do intend to write a full length story about that. Maybe a novel or a novella. And second reason is that I have already talked about our first meeting in one of my previous books. And the readers who have already read that, they would be like, it's I figured that they might think it's repetitive. So I
Okay.
refrain from doing that here.
Okay, that's sound that I think that's sound reason. That's actually a good reason because you never know, like like somebody else who reads it again, and then there's definitely that tag that she's repeating her stories
Yeah,
from like the previous books.
yeah, yeah.
That's actually a very good thought process. So, okay, Tia, I think I am done with like my questions for you. I think you're done with your
I
questions
am.
for me.
And
What happens
let
next?
let's just see if we have any comments or questions from the audience that we might have missed out on addressing. But I
Yeah,
think we did a fair job while we were interacting. We took up the questions and the responses during the live itself. So, no, I think we have covered that. So, that's about it. Yeah. Thank you. I want to end by saying thank you for coming on the show. I had a lovely time. It was a very good
welcome,
conversation.
Fran. Welcome, Fran. Welcome, Fran.
I had fun. I had a lot of fun. It was so nice going inside your head and learning about so many things that went behind the creation of this book and the characters. So thank you for sharing that with me.
My pleasure.
And
My
now I want
pleasure.
to
It was really
end
nice having this
by
conversation.
asking,
Mhm.
before I end, I want to ask you, are we expecting anything from you next?
So I actually have written the first draft of the next one, but it's
Okay.
a very, very rough draft, and I am actually working on the second draft of it, but I haven't typed in well over 2 months. My mom had an open heart bypass surgery, a
Okay.
coronary artery bypass surgery. It happened on June the 4th, and so ever since then, like like life took a different turn. Like we were looking into like that she's recovering and she's recovering very well. But before that, at some point in time, I was actually working on draft two. But and so this is what Abhi, it's August, right? I think I was typing sometime in May, and
Okay.
I still yet to complete it because I have to do a lot of different things for that book, and there's a lot of thinking that goes into that as well. And I haven't lately, like I haven't had the time to do that because work takes up time, and then like marketing and sales of this book takes up time. The amount of time that Instagram itself these days is taking is like quite a lot. Like I never expected it to be taking this much time, but it's actually nice to see like because like there were days when I launched this book and there was literally like no hits on Instagram at all. Like the social media scene was like really sad. Now now at least it's flowing. Now at least like people are appreciating the work, commenting, following, and all that. I
Nice.
think I checked up and I have like at least like 400 plus followers now. So which is like now that I think about it, it's quite a lot coming considering the fact that I had like only like maybe 7 or 8 to begin with.
Okay, lovely. So I look forward to this next book whenever it comes out, and I look
Thank
forward to
you.
hosting you again whenever it happens.
So
Thank you
I'll
once
tell
again.
I'll tell you, definitely. Tell you. My pleasure, friend. And take care and hello to your husband. And you guys like, sit together and eat like plenty of Vicks Vapor Up. I guess that's your India thing. Enjoy, enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye. Have a great
Bye,
weekend ahead.
bye,
Bye.
bye, bye. And thank you everyone for attending. It was
Yes,
really
thank you.
nice and kind of you to actually attend. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Bye.
thank